Welcome to the Fight Chase Muay Thai and Mixed Martial Arts podcast.
So UFC 237.
So we're going to go over UFC 237 this past weekend. We're going to go over the main card, hits and misses of the main card, how we thought it went down. We are not experts by any means. We're two people that have trained mixed martial arts for several years now. So if you complain about this, that's on you. This is just our opinion and what we saw going on.
Yeah.
So we'll start. Yeah, we'll start with the Thiago Alves fight.
Well, real quick before we get into the Thiago Alves fight, I didn't see the fights, but it was pretty sad because I know both Nogueira and BJ Penn both lost.
Well, what's even more sad is I didn't know they fought.
Yeah.
Now,
BJ
for everybody
Penn,
out there,
BJ Penn lost to Clay Guida.
Yeah, Clay Guida probably just outworked him.
Yeah, which is so sad because BJ used to be like
an animal and never get winded, but
yeah. Oh, just sad.
I mean, we're gonna be jumping all around here, but it's the same thing as when I was watching Anderson, and I'm like, man, he's so good still. But then if you think about where he's like, who's around that still is fighting like him? You know, most of the guys, the shoot box guys and things like that, are not fighting anymore.
Yeah,
you know, they're on the way out. But he looked phenomenal. So, I was just say something else. Oh, anybody that doesn't understand why I might not have, I am an MMA fan, but I was at the one championship fights, and UFC is not advertised out here in Thailand. Most of the places don't know what MMA is, and I'm bombarded with Muay Thai and one championship, so I do miss out on some of the fight nights and things like that. I just don't know that they're going on because I don't watch TV. The only reason I really even see it is, you know, somebody posts on Facebook or something like that. So it's not that I'm not an MMA fan or however anyone wants to say it. It's just the exposure is way different here than it is in the States.
and plus there's so many events going on in the UFC. It's hard to keep track of all of them.
Well, and then on top of that is one has an event almost every other week.
Yeah.
So, like, I just went to the event on Friday, and they just showed what the guys are fighting. Really good fight card with, was it Yodson Klai? So that next event is this weekend or next weekend or no, this weekend I think because the people from Pettendy are in Singapore. So, and there's Muay Thai. I don't watch much TV, but there's Muay Thai on TV almost every night. So.
Yep.
So let's go to the second fight on the main card.
Mr. Alves, and I do not recall the other guy's name.
And that's how our reviews are going to go. So that's not a problem. If you guys watch it, then you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So everyone knows who Alves is. He looked big.
Yeah.
Like, he looked very healthy.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
you know that was a pretty good fight, and I think that Thiago Alves would have actually won it if he would have started a little sooner. Like I felt like he gave away like almost the first two rounds. I mean, he came alive in the second round, but I felt like he gave away a little bit too much, letting him do, because you know the guy, man, I can't remember his name, the guy that he was fighting, the gentleman in the blue trunks, he was throwing a lot of, you know, some flashy stuff, some spinning stuff. He kept going for like a 360 kick, but none of it was really even doing anything to Thiago Alves. And Thiago Alves was kind of just looking to pick his shots, and he was more or less just throwing some basic 1-2s, mixing in his low kick in there. I was actually a little bit more impressed with him. Even though he wasn't dictating the pace of the fight, which is what I think ultimately made him lose.
Yeah, it looked like a good striking match. And I was watching it and some Thais were there, and they're like, "Oh, it's same as Muay Thai." And I'm like, not really. They're supposed to go to the ground at some point too, or they
Yeah.
can. But it was definitely a striking match, and it was a decent fight. And then he loses the decision, but it's one of those things is when you let the judges take care of it. Not always sure where it's going to go.
Yeah, yeah, just really depended on the judges on
But
that
he,
one
like
because
you said, though, he didn't seem like he came on until later. He was kind of
yeah,
tentative and waiting to, knock the dude out. And the other dude was real flashy, and that looks, to some judges, that looks like you're doing things,
yeah,
which most
definitely.
of the time you're not.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a good fight. Yeah, I think he just did a little bit more than Thiago to win it.
Yeah.
Um, with the fight that was after that, that was Anderson Silva, correct?
No, it was Aldo.
Oh, it was Aldo. That's right. Man, how disappointing was that fight?
It's very disappointing. Aldo seemed like he was just not Aldo. He's an amazing fighter, and he just wasn't pulling the trigger.
Yeah, that was so odd. Yeah, especially Cormier and Dominic Cruz were really calling it out,
Yeah.
being like, he's not doing anything. He's just fighting not to lose.
Right. And
And
wasn't it his
that was
corner said,
100% correct.
yeah, didn't his corner say like they thought he had 2 rounds?
I didn't hear that.
Because TC's like, I don't know that was the right thing to say to him.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
in the third round, he was up against the cage and he's kind of just there and looking at the clock. So, and then he looked very disappointed when he lost. Like he
Yeah,
couldn't
it
believe
was
it.
so odd. Because he was fighting Alexander Volkanovski. I didn't
Yeah.
remember his name either, but then I remembered I had a laptop, so I just looked it up.
I
um,
wrote it down.
oh, nice. Yeah, it was so weird that he even thought that he was gonna win that fight. Like, he had his finger pointed up, like he thought he was. Maybe it was
Yeah.
just wishful thinking, but
Or he thought the
definitely.
judges were on his side.
Yeah, with being in Brazil, the judges were on his side. I'm sure if it was a little closer, they would have gave it to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he was up against the fence, he wasn't circling. He wasn't trying to circle out. He wasn't trying to put him up against the fence. And Volkanovski was landing those knees to the inside leg, and
Yeah.
that those hurt. Like they don't
Well,
look like they're much, but that tissue, like we talked before, it's tender.
yes.
Kneeing
And then those
over and
were
over and over
those were
again.
some good knees right to that section.
Oh yeah, it was.
And he had a good inside low kick that he kept using too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he kept. Yeah, just kind of flicking that inside low kick in there. It's not a lot of power, but that it does sting a little bit, and it also throws your balance off.
Yeah,
Throwing that
yeah.
inside kick throws your balance off, and it really helps set up your other strikes.
Well, what happens also is it starts to swell up and things like that, and it's very uncomfortable. So once they keep throwing it, you want to change your stance, and like you said, it's going to throw off your whole game.
Yeah.
But that
The one thing about Jose Aldo that I've noticed, and maybe it's just me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like he's a little bit like stiff, like more stiff than he normally is. Like usually it seems like his striking's pretty fluid and he throws some really good combinations, but I didn't really see that from him in this fight.
yeah, he definitely looked off.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I wonder if there's a reasoning behind that. If it's a psychological thing, or maybe he had a bad weight cut. Like, I really would be interested in hearing what Jose Aldo had to say in regards to that fight.
Usually, what caught me the most was that he genuinely thought he won.
Yeah, that was so odd.
Because I'm like, all right, you could see that he wasn't like the third round. He didn't take it off, but he wasn't doing anything. It was kind of like the same, mild performance of the whole fight.
Yeah. Yep.
But so guess what? You didn't win.
Yep. Yeah, that definitely wasn't Jose Aldo's best performance. I mean,
How brutal is those Brazilian fans?
yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Those guys are ruthless.
Yeah. What is it that they chant? You're going to die, isn't that their thing?
Don't you remember that from Worlds?
Yeah.
With the checkmat guys and they were chanting at the GFT guys, and that was wild. I have video of that still that I haven't done anything with. Of like that moment when they're just jumping on the bleachers and stuff.
So how long ago was that? That was like 2013. We went to the IBJJF World Championships in
2013.
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, you remember because there was that referee, or not that referee, but that security guard.
The security guy on the stairs.
Yeah, he came over to talk to checkmat, to tell him to stay out of the aisles, and they just grabbed a hold of him and started jumping up and down, celebrating. Because it wasn't that when Buchecha was going?
Buchecha and Adolfo.
Yeah. And they started jumping up and down with the security guard.
With the security guy.
Yeah, he lost his balance and fell down, and then was like, okay, I'm just going to leave these guys.
He didn't know what was going on. Yeah. So basically, if anybody doesn't know, we were at, the Jiu-Jitsu World in 2013, which is, the World Championships of Jiu-Jitsu. And this was the final day. The open black belts were fighting. So it's the best black belts in the world, open weight class. And if you've ever watched like a soccer match or any of that where the Brazilian fans are just like any fans are just going wild and jumping and cheering, and they have chants and all this stuff. And that's what it was, for jiu-jitsu. And we were in a section of the teams that was cheering for their guys, and the security guy comes down the stairs because they were all in the stairway on the bleachers, and he's like trying to tell him to move, and I looked over and they just grabbed him and took him down the stairs with them, and they're jumping and cheering, and this guy falls over and then was like, he gave up, he didn't come back.
They basically made him a member of their posse.
Oh yeah, he was part of the team.
Yeah. They tried to convince him to cheer with him, and he wasn't quite convinced, but he was also not going to do anything about them jumping and standing in the walkway.
He was just a random event staff guy. He probably had no idea what jiu-jitsu was, and he was just
I think he was trying to tell them that it was a fire hazard, and they were like, cool story, guy.
They answered in Portuguese and went on with their day.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, back to the UFC, the good old days.
So the next fight, the co-main event was Jared. I hope I'm saying this right. Cannonier, Cannonier. Sorry, Jared, I have no idea how to say your name, but he's going against Anderson Silva, which was a pretty quick fight.
Like I was saying before, they came out and I thought Anderson looked amazing.
Yeah.
Like his movement was really good, very, very youthful of him, and, doing his Anderson ways, being out of the way and moving really well and throwing some weird spinny stuff, and it looked like Anderson.
Yeah, and the thing about Anderson, and I think people that have watched the sport for a while and have an understanding of the sport understands what Anderson is doing within the first few minutes of the fight, because I always a lot of times I have different people coming over, not all of them are fight fans, and they watch somebody like Anderson Silva in that first few minutes where he's just reading his opponent. Basically, he's just not throwing anything. He's throwing feints to see how the opponent's going to react as if he did throw that movement. So he's kind of assessing what the guy is going to do, and I feel like a lot of times I hear people say all the time, this fight's boring, but that's just kind of what he does. So the first couple minutes of the fight, is just him throwing a lot of feints at Jared, trying to, see what his timing is, see what his counters are, and then based on that, Anderson likes to start to counter, is what, he really is, because he's a great counter fighter.
He's very elusive when he's on.
Yeah, very, very elusive. So, Jared was doing a good job. He was landing some kicks. And, you see that from Anderson a lot, where he kind of lets people – he lets people land a little bit. especially in the first round, because he's really trying to get his reads so that he could decide on how and what he's going to do to counter, basically.
And he likes to leave his guard low and things to kind of bait people into throwing everything that they're going to throw. So they feel his opponents feel very comfortable, like, oh, I can hit him with this, and then they realize they can't hit him, and they're giving up what openings they're going to have when they do throw those things, and he's reading all of that.
Yeah, which I mean is such you have to have such a high level of confidence to fight like that. Like, like when you're sparring and somebody hits you with even a decent jab, like most people that's gonna upset them, but Anderson kind of knows, like, he knows what he's capable of, so he's not really worried about a lot of the strikes that his opponents are throwing at him. And I really feel that's kind of what got him into trouble in this fight, is he was letting him land those heavier low kicks. And, it was just kind of a freak accident, but you can't really take anything away from Jared because, he's the reason why Anderson couldn't fight anymore. He landed that heavy inside low kick, and that Anderson just wasn't able. He had to blow something out in his knee.
Well, he said he was injured previously, but another thing with that inside low kick, and I'm sure you felt it, if you don't check that, it's a very weak part of your leg. It's a hinge. So, like, to get the ligaments and your ACL, MCL, all that stuff's right in there. If you get kicked kind of behind that, and that's what happened, it was right at the knee, and you don't check it, that's not tissue that should be getting banged up like that. And then if you already had an injury on it, as soon as you put any pressure back on it like that, you blew something out. He was definitely not feeling it. But the thing when you can kind of counter that is to check it in. Like, so when they start kicking and you turn your knee in, you're not going to kick that many times if you kick me in the knee.
Isn't that also how Anderson broke his leg? Wasn't it on the inside leg kick against Weidman? I'm pretty sure. I'd have to go back and watch it, but I'm pretty sure he inside checked. He turned that knee in, and that's.
And you never know, like, something that drastic. What does it do to somebody? I mean, he's an elite level fighter, but if you snap your leg in half, maybe that's a technique that you've used your whole life so you've checked all those kicks and you've never had a problem, and that one that blew your leg in half that was so devastating. In your mind, does that make you not turn that knee in anymore?
Yeah, you would think it would have to. Like, he would definitely be more hesitant in throwing that kick.
I mean, your leg broke in half.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere. I mean, he is one of the most elite fighters. So I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying it from the Monday morning quarterback position, but it kind of just seems like somewhere in your psyche, if you've literally had your leg snapped in half, that you might be tentative of doing the same thing that caused that.
Yeah.
Or not. Who knows? But it looked like it freaking hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in serious pain. When he hit the ground, he screamed.
Yeah.
So, and he couldn't stand up, and yeah, he looked pretty bad. But who knows how much longer he's going to be, fighting? He's been fighting for a long time.
Because he's 44.
Yeah.
No, and he's had a lot of fights, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here.
But he looked, like I said, he looked good before that, But again, like you said, maybe there's a previous injury, but guess what? I don't think his opponent took advantage of an injury. He didn't know that.
Yeah.
So DC was saying he came in with that game plan that he needed to land those low kicks, and he did. So, not to take away from his win by any means of being there was an injury, but he did his game plan, and it just happened to work out in that way, But, and then I thought he was going to get killed by the Brazilian fans, so.
Yeah. Yeah, he was being super respectful, and they're like, nah, we ain't having this.
They were screaming over him. So, like, he couldn't hear the interview. when they were asking him questions.
Yeah.
So Anderson hurts himself and lives to fight another day.
Yeah.
And then the poor guy gets he got all his hype taken away from him. I mean, it was a very, very good win, to get him up the rankings. So
yeah,
more power to him. Keep going. He didn't look bad at all.
Nope.
And the
main event: Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. So that was a really good fight. I really enjoyed that fight. I actually had Jessica. I was scared for Rose. I was going for Rose, but I thought Jessica just has a lot of power in her hands. So, and I know she's powerful all around. So I was really worried about her when the fight opened up. But when the fight started, I thought that Rose actually had that fight. I thought she was going to win that fight for sure after watching the first round.
Oh, the first round, she looked amazing.
Yeah.
And her striking was like flawless. And what I was watching, and she's staring, like Rose was staring right at her as she throws every punch. Like there's no waver, she was like, her aim was so true with all those punches that she knew exactly where they were going. And then the way she was coming off and leading her into the power hand, it was perfect.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Her footwork, and then, Jessica was throwing these looping punches, and Rose was having none of it. She was either sliding just out of the way, or I can't remember if it was in the first or the second round, she threw a right hand, and she just ducked right under it and came up and around behind Jessica, and she had to turn around to face her.
Yeah, she was looking very smooth.
Yeah, and then she had her, like, I don't know if it was a jab or a cross or whatnot, but she had her split open too. She was bleeding a little bit. It definitely looked like she was winning that fight. Kind of the determining factor in that fight was that Kimura trap. So the Kimura trap, what it is a lot of times if somebody's either going for a single leg, you can even do it off of a double leg. You're just getting that figure 4 lock on one of the arms for the Kimura. And the first, I believe it was in the first round. Yeah, it was in the first round where Jessica, Rose gets the Kimura trap, and then Jessica picks her up over her head, and slams her kind of onto her hip. And then Rose comes back and is able to feed for an arm bar. But that was right there, at the tail end of the round, and she wasn't able to get it. But
she didn't. She looked like she went for it, and then when she realized she wasn't going to get, kicked her off real fast.
That's right. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, she disengaged but it was like most people when they disengage, they don't like. It was very controlled. She kicked her right to the cage, and she was good.
Yep.
But it was definitely. It was slick when she went down. I was like, damn, she got slammed, but then shifted right around and went for that arm. And then when she realized that arm wasn't going, she just kicked the hell out of it, and she was out. So
I kind of want to go into that Kimura trap a little bit because for those of you who don't know, I am a jiu-jitsu black belt, so I'm just not making this stuff up. But for that Kimura trap, when you have that Kimura, like, you really have to sit your hips down so that your hips are heavy, and then you almost kind of like want to lean back to pull the arm out. Because if you leave that Kimura trap and you're kind of standing upright with your hips in, it actually makes it pretty easy to be lifted. You really kind of want to have that arm locked, have your base down, and then you like, there's a certain way that you could lean back and actually kick the person over the top of your head if you wanted to, and actually get a sweep from that position. But that's not what Rose was doing. Rose was connecting the hands, but then she was standing up tall. She didn't have enough weight down into her hips.
Yeah, and I'm also a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Kurt and I used to compete together a lot, traveled a lot, and I used the Kimura in tournaments numerous times.
Yeah,
And like
you actually have quite a few wins with the Kimura.
yeah, I loved it. It was like my go-to, especially if I felt winded or anything like that. It was just a very
Kimura
secure
Kelly.
position. Yep, yep. And but like you're saying, you have to have a base to that. She was kind of to get her locked on the way she was. Is she seemed kind of almost forward heavy. Like so, Rose was very heavy over the arm, and that's why it seemed like she was easily picked up. Is her balance was over the arm, and if she had pulled back some to really cinch that. But I think that they were like who was it? Also, it was Cruz that was commentating,
Yeah.
and he just kept saying, "Yeah, that's how you stop the slam." I don't know. I've never tried to do it from someone slamming me, but somebody picks me up, and I think I would have let go. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of fast forward a little bit to the end of the second round. So what happens in the second round is Jessica does pick her way up and then slams her right on her head and neck. And it's from that same positioning, from that Kimura trap positioning. So she has the Kimura on, but this time, instead of like sending her up and you'll kind of flip, because she kind of like sent her in a circle the first time and she landed on her hip. This time she just picked her up, dropped her right on her head.
Yeah, the
wound
first
up
one,
getting the TKO.
the first time kind of almost looked like what would you kind of like I don't know what they would call it, and somebody's probably going to make a stupid comment, but like a sacrifice throw, like in jiu-jitsu, like you kind of go with the person, whereas the second one, she's like, yeah, I suplexed her.
Yeah.
Like it looked like a legitimate wrestling, like professional wrestling. You're dropping this person on her head, and it looked very devastating, and it was because she was clueless when
Yeah, she was
she
out.
woke up. Yeah.
I think, like I was saying before, for that Kimura trap to work, you really have to sit back into your hips. Like you could do it on a high crotch, you could do it on a single leg, you could do it on a double leg. But one of the things that Dominic Cruz actually said that I thought was really on point is he was saying that she should have let go and switched to the switch. So what the switch is in wrestling, it's a way like you're going to let go of the Kimura trap, put your hand on the inside of the person's leg with your shoulder matching their shoulder, and you're going to kind of lean back and kind of send them down to the mat. You could also do that switch if they're up against the cage. You could actually drive their face into the cage with the switch. And it's kind of something that's hard to visualize, but if you watch Frankie Edgar fight, you've probably seen this switch many times because Frankie Edgar does it pretty much every single fight.
It's definitely something with a very fluid wrestler.
Yeah.
Do it very well, and I don't know. I mean, the Kimura that she was using, that that trap seemed to be like their go-to plan. Like they thought that was going to stop what was going to happen because she didn't bail on it. So I believe that they probably drilled that and are like, and it probably worked on most people. But
yeah.
She was a beast.
But Andrade she's just an animal. Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, I almost want to say that, I mean, there was some technique to it, but it wasn't that technical. You know what I mean? She dropped it right on her head.
It was very powerful.
Yes, she's very powerful.
Like, yeah, of course there's technique, to get another person's body weight up and flip them upside down, but
yeah,
that was powerful.
Yeah, Rose was doing a great job, and it's easy for me to say, oh, she should have done this or she should have done that. But, she wasn't expecting to get dropped on her head. Like, I could see myself doing the same thing, grabbing that Kimura trap and then not expecting somebody to drop me on my head and then get dropped on my head.
Yeah, getting like that is you can't prepare for it.
Yeah.
I had a kid that I was working with, a fighter, and the kid's amazing, like a jiu-jitsu prodigy, and the kid picks up everything. You're teaching him stand up, and he would pick it up, and he could explain it to the person the next day. Anybody, he could teach it, and it happened to him once, and it's one of those fluke things that we were all like down about it that he had lost a fight that way, but you can't prepare to get slammed on your head. Like, and in his instant, it was an arm bar, which was super tight. And like I said, the kid's a jiu-jitsu prodigy, so we're thinking, oh, he's going to finish him. And, out of the desperation, like, that it normally doesn't work. It'll tighten the arm bar, but the kid was able to, when he hit the mat, hit him head first. So his head hit and then bent his neck and knocked him out. So,
that same exact thing happened to me, the same scenario with the arm bar. I was fighting this guy out of Sacramento. This was probably like 10 years ago. And, I secured a really tight arm bar, thought for sure that I had it. He picked me up. I straightened it out all the way, just lifted me up, boom, dropped me right on my neck. He didn't TKO me, but he got out of the arm bar.
yeah.
So, slams are definitely effective. I mean, look at Rampage Jackson when he fought Ricardo Arona.
Yeah.
Like, that was a very devastating slam,
It's one of those things, though. You can't prepare for it.
Yeah, the one thing that I've learned in those type of scenarios, whether it's the Kimura, the armbar, or the triangle, is you have to know that there's a certain point when you need to let go. Like, if you're in an armbar and you feel the guy pick you up and you're at where his knees are, you need to let go of the armbar before he picks you up any higher. And that kind of goes with the triangle and the Kimura as well.
Easier said than done when you really think you have the finish in the middle of a fight.
Oh, yeah, right? For sure. Because if you're 100% committed to it, like, you're like, okay, go ahead. Like, I've even thought before, like, go ahead and slam me. I'm going to finish this. And then you want to
break your arm.
Slammed and they get out of it and you're like, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I thought her striking looked flawless. I mean, that jab was lightning fast.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with that. I think if the fight had kept going like the first round, she would have definitely had won.
The way she was pivoting out too, like she was doing this little slap hook and then, pivoting out to her left. It was really, really nice, really well done. She was everywhere she was supposed to be.
Yeah, definitely.
In the striking department. But yeah, it was just once she got a hold of her, that was it. And I think as long as Rose, this doesn't damage her confidence, if she went into a rematch with Jessica, I would still favor Rose.
Yeah, I think so. So, definitely. Again, I guess we're very amateur at MMA commentating, but I didn't watch the post-fight, but I saw a lot of things about her retiring.
Oh, Rose?
Yeah, because even John Wayne Parr had posted, please don't retire on her Instagram.
Oh, I hope not, because she's just I feel like she has even more to improve. Just like every time I've seen her fight from the Joanna fights, she's just looked better every single time. Every single time I've seen her fight, she's looked more impressive. Like I when she fought Joanna the first time, I was super impressed, but I didn't think she was going to be able to beat her the second time. And then she completely shut her out, in a 5-round fight. And then after watching this fight, she just looked amazing.
Yeah, I thought her striking was even it seemed very, very technical.
Yeah.
All intentional.
Yep.
But when you get knocked out, you don't win, and that sucks. So
yeah, no, definitely does.
But yeah, no, she's awesome to see fight, and I'd love to see her fight her again.
And I really hope that she doesn't. And the part of the reason being is because, no offense to some of the other women that are in the UFC, but she's setting the bar higher for the rest of the women, because there's not as many women as there is men in any of the women's weight classes, and to lose somebody that is that technical, that sets the bar that high would be, I don't think it would be good.
No, and another thing is I think along with a few other athletes, Rose is one of the ones that's kind of bringing, I guess you could say, classy back, bringing
Yeah.
like the age of where what you see here, Muay Thai fighters. There's respect, there's honor, they're warriors, and Rose is one of the few that I've seen of. There's a few UFC fighters that are really trying to make their mark again as being not the good guys, but respect and integrity, which, we've seen too much of the BS that goes along in the UFC these days. And I stopped watching a lot of fights a while back just because it's like they need all the hype to get this fight off. I can go down the street and watch a Muay Thai fight that's like super dynamic with elite strikers, and they were preparing for the fight in the same room. There doesn't need to be the drama, and they pay respect when they're done fighting. So it's like, I think Rose is she's, key to keeping that movement going.
Yeah, she's definitely setting an excellent example
for fighters and for people, She's very humble. She doesn't need the trash talk. And like, even, did you see the when they had the standoff and she gave her the rose?
No.
Yeah, she gave Rose a rose, and you know how Rose is kind of like mean mugs you and just kind of stands there.
Yeah.
And she took it. Like, she took the rose and she's like, "Thank you," and then they hugged at a face-off. So like, it doesn't need to be the Conor drama, the things like that to get the fights off. If you could do it respectfully, that's cool. I'd much rather see that. And that's like one championship. I paid way more attention to that just because of that. Because other than, I mean, we'll get into that on an episode of the difference between maybe one and UFC, but just the respect, of being, whether you're blue corner or red corner, you're getting in there and you're putting it all on the line. You're going to do something that very few people will do, and there doesn't need to be the extra drama to do it. Just get in there. The respect is way more interesting than the drama to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fair weather fan, and I understand different aspects of the game. And like, you and I have been around many fighters, and you fought, and there's a whole different, a view that we get on this situation. I mean, I understand that a lot of the fair weather fans are new fans. I mean, nothing against them, because that's what makes, the company grow, but they like that drama. I don't care for it, as a martial artist and somebody that, values what it takes to make that walk. Is, I could use less of the drama, more of people like Rose and a few of the others that have started to come out that are actually really stand-up people and seem to be doing it for the right reason.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more refreshing.
If anybody has any questions or comments or anything like that, fightchase.com, you can contact me there.
You're throwing this up on YouTube, right?
And we're gonna figure out how to put it on YouTube. So we'll do links and everything there. If you have questions, comments, something you want us to talk about, Kurt's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He runs a Muay Thai academy in
Carson City, Nevada. Carson Kickboxing Club. You check out Carson Kickboxing, you can reach me there. If you're ever in the area, feel free to drop in as well.
You'll get some definite Thai training. I am in Thailand. If you're out here, hey, I've met a lot of people out here in the last year that I never thought I'd see again from the States. So Bangkok, Pattaya, Phuket, wherever you end up going, you can hit me up. It's Fight Chase on all the social media, and we are going to keep coming out with these podcasts, even if you don't like it. So listen, honestly, if you have any questions or comments about any of this stuff, if you want to know about traveling, if you're wondering about visas, if you want to know how to get into martial arts, we all started somewhere. So hit us up, ask us. We have no problem getting as much information out there as we can for you. And that should be it. You ready?
Boom.
All right, we're out of here.